What's up, guys? So the Busquets pack has come out. Now, this was a player I was interested in because I used to really like using Busquets in PES 16 and PES 18. I like having a kind of technical anchorman because I used to only play possession. I play quick counter nowadays, but that's more because possession style isn't as good as it should be. So I do want to kind of play with a possession philosophy, and obviously Busquets is really good for that. So we'll take a look at the cards, give builds, and then what skills put on them, and then I'll recommend it if I think it's worth spinning. So you can see Busquets has visionary pass, Alba with edge crossing, and then Casillas doesn't have a showtime skill. We'll start off with Jordi Alba. Now for Alba, I have a couple builds. This first build is assuming he doesn't have edge crossing. Now I know probably wondering why would you assume that. It's just in case you don't have someone in the middle to cross to really, or crossing isn't your playstyle. So this is a build I would go for in that kind of situation. If you do kind of want to make use of that edge crossing, just take off the shooting and put a little bit into passing there, and then you can also even take more dribbling off. Now you will lose that 90 ball control, but you'll get a lot more points there, and then you could even take more defending off or lower body strength. He's definitely a player that I think you shouldn't worry too much about his defending. I still want the engagement high, 85 there, because if you do want to use him as an attacking fullback, more wing back, and you want him to go forward a lot, defense engagement will mean that even when he's tired, he's more likely to come and track back and get back into position. So it's just really that specific stat I'm focused on for the defensive stats. In terms of the booster, so he starts off with agility. In terms of optimize the build, I'd go for free kick taken, just because you can see then we get the curl up to 80. That means you can also probably just take a point off the lower body strength. You'll keep the 90 kicking power, and then you can put the points into like passing, for example. I think Alba looks pretty good, to be honest. I do think while his finishing is quite low, his kick and power is very high, and for a fullback, that's going to be more than enough. I think Roberto Carlos, maybe the more later cards have higher finishing, but usually they have about 75-ish finishing, and then the 80 curl will be very good because Alba, sorry, does have outside curler, and I'll show you in a sec. So once he has 80 curl, he'll be pretty good at the outside curlers too. Now, I would only really use Alba if you're going to use him as an attacking fullback or even at left mid there in a 3-5-2. I will give a more defensive build, but I really don't recommend it. But I know there are some people who are going to want to have a more defensive build. So in that case, let's take up all the boosters for a sec. We would just go down the dribbling until we get to 85 type possession probably. And pretty simply, we're just trying to get that tackling and aggression up to 84. So you're going to have to make a sacrifice further. And because this would be a more defensive build, we'll just take it on shooting there and then get 85s there. So he looks a lot better defensively now, but I wouldn't use him there really just because of how kind of, I think he is pretty unique. I don't think there'd be many fullbacks like him, but also he's not going to be too tall, 170 centimeters. Actually, to be fair though, I have Philip Lam with aerial superiority. Jordi Alba's jump height is 247. Let's just have a look at Philip Lam, see what his jump height is. Because while he's definitely not dominant in the air, I don't really have any complaints about his aerial ability. So his is 246. Okay, so maybe if you put aerial superiority on Jordi Alba, he might be decent. I have my skills wrote down that I recommend, but I actually didn't check that. So I guess actually aerial superiority might not be terrible on him. I'll just give you the skills I had listed anyway, and then you can probably make that last decision. So assuming you're going to be using them, you know, very attacking, I would go for first time shot, long range shooting, rising shot, or dipping shot. I'd probably lean towards dipping shot. I feel like you don't need as high finishing for dipping shot to work. Whereas for rising shot, I do find you kind of need a lot of finishing. But he does have the kick and power for the rising shot. And then I'd go for soul control and flip flap just for that double touch and make him as good in the final third as possible. Now, if you want to, you know, change that build to be the more defensive one, you probably go for track back or and man marking instead of the long range shooting or the rising shot and dipping shot. Now, just because I mentioned it there with the aerial superiority, I guess you could take off the first time shot if you wanted to go for aerial superiority. Now, again, just to reiterate, that's if you're going to be using them as kind of purely more defensive player, which I wouldn't recommend, but I know there will be some people that want to do that. So I think he actually looks quite good, and it's a shame that Busquets. I mean, we're going to go on to Busquets now. I wanted Busquets, but I don't know if I want to spend all this money for Busquets. I want them to come out with Xavi and Iniesta, but he does look quite good. You'll see here in a sec. This is the build I went for. You can see if we take off the boost, we're just trying to get 87 aggression up to 90. And then we're trying to get 85 on the ball control for the boost, 85 on the low pass. And then we're just trying to get that acceleration and physical contact to 78 to get the +2s on them to get to the next level. I think he looks pretty good. He's actually got a lot of balance. I would assume he has to be the highest balance DMF. Sorry, not DMF. Highest balance anchorman. Thing is, anchormans don't actually need much balance because they're not going to spend too much time on the ball. Hopefully, beating players, and because of the way they're positioned on the pitch, anytime you play the ball to your anchorman, there should be a passing option open for him. Just kind of the nature of the position. So you don't need to kind of get yourself out of trouble with dribbling. So I use all my players have high balance except for Gilberto Silva, my anchorman. He's the only one who doesn't need high balance, and I guess the goalkeeper as well. Uh, Even centre backs, I think I need high balance because sometimes you need to dribble with them, but you don't really need to be your anchorman. But Busquets is going to be unique in that regard, so you're going to take that kind of possession play style to a new level. Now, for his booster, I would go. You can see here we've invested the most points into lower body strength and into defending. The reason we have the lower body strength that high, obviously, is just because I feel like speed is very important for defending. You can get around, cover a lot more ground very quickly. Also, we don't have much points into passing because I've talked about in my head to train midfielders guide. 85 low pass seems to be the highest. You need it because true passing should give a 20% boost to the low pass stat. Some Chinese player did some testing on it. So when you add that up, it'll equal to about 103, which is we're assuming is the highest rating you can get to with the boosters on the stats. But for the booster, I would just put a defending one on. Just a couple defending ones. There's defending +1, and I think there's shutdown as well. I don't really think I have a preference, to be honest. Actually, does one of them give aggression as well? Maybe dueling. Which one gives aggression? Because we want to keep that to 90. Okay, hard worker. So hard worker probably is what you should go for. Then you just take a point off defending, and you've got 3 points left. And then I would probably put it in dribbling there. Now you could take, let's say, a point off lower body strength as well, and get more points into defending, or sorry, rather into dribbling. You can actually get the tight possession up to 96. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good build for me. I'd be very happy to use that now. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to get my hands on him. But look at his player model. He's got really good leg coverage. I don't know what arm coverage is actually exactly. But good jump height, leg. I think that's the which one's the one? Pez Pepe did a video on this, talking about interceptions. It's leg coverage or leg length based height. But I just wanted to compare him to Gilberto Silva as well, because we're going into Busquets with the assumption that he's so good on the ball for an anchorman. But if you look at his defensive stats, like Gilberto Silva is the best anchorman for me. I know people will say Vieira, and maybe Vieira is the best anchorman, but I think Vieira is better as a destroyer. But Gilberto Silva is like really, really good for me. Look, defensively, it's the same pretty much. And then if you look at the leg coverage, 182 versus 180. So he's beating him on the leg coverage. And if it is the leg length based height instead, 189 on Gilberto versus 189 on Busquets. So yeah, Busquets is he's also pretty close to him in terms of ability in the air. Like I think this Busquets, even if you don't care about his on the ball ability, looks very good defensively. So we'll go into his skills now. So for Busquets' skills, I would go for gamesmanship, just because if you do get caught on the ball with him, you might be able to win a foul. Track back. Now, some people have asked me recently, is track back not like do you actually want track back on your DMFs? 100% for me anyway. Once I didn't used to like Gilberto Silva, then I put track back on him, became one of my favorite players. There is a concern that if you have track back on them, particularly when the ball changes possession, your Gilberto Silva, if he has track back at DMF, he's just going to push out and press the opponent. If you're a low skill player, that might be an issue because you might not be quick enough to recognize that Gilberto Silva, or you might not have the kind of finger dexterity, I guess, to switch into Gilberto Silva and stop him from pressing. Now, for someone who played a lot of this game, I'm pretty comfortable if I know a player is being aggressive and I don't want them to be aggressive. I can just switch into him, move him like one step and then switch off, and then that'll kind of break his AI and he won't be pressing anymore. So for me, it's not a problem. If you don't feel like you're going to be able to switch, then maybe you're not good at player switching on defense. If like maybe in that case, track back might not be the best. But if you have a certain tactics, if you have left mid and right mid, I'm sure if your DMF moves out position with track back, it won't be as big of an issue. I'd go for gamesmanship, fighting spirit, track back. I'd probably go for man marking as well. And then for the last skill, I have a few ideas. Okay, one I had is outside curler, but I really don't think it's needed. I just had that down just because I couldn't really think of much else. But he doesn't have much curl, only 71 on that build I gave. But then for the other two skills, weighted pass and soul control. Now, weighted pass helps your true balls. It'll just put a backspin on the pass, so it'll kind of place the ball in front of the defender more effectively. The thing is, it works for on the ground passes and in the air passes. I'm like 99% sure of that. Because I've noticed it for lofted balls, and then I think Gianni told me it works for the true balls on the ground as well. The thing is though, uh your anchorman anyway. When I play with an anchorman, like they're never gonna really be playing an in the ball or in behind true ball in the air. Now on the ground they will, but they'll usually be spreading it wide with the true balls. Or if let's say the opponent's back line, maybe the fullback had pushed up a bit higher than the centre backs, and then the striker moves into that gap in behind that fullback. The anchorman might play that true pass sometimes, so weighted pass might be useful there. But usually you don't play as many I don't know how to say it, kind of risky lofted passes with your anchorman. With the low lofted pass on Busquets does look very good, and because there will be some times where you pick the ball deep, let's say like from a goal kick for example. If you get the ball with Busquets from the goal kick, you can play a long diagonal up to the front line. So the reason there's a debate between weighted pass and soul control is because if you do a knock on before that low lofted pass, it will be more accurate, and then also it's going to help with the double touch. Busquets does start with double touch as well. But look, I think this Busquets looks very good. So you just have to think about those skills. I probably ignore the outside curler shout. I don't think with the low curl it's going to be too effective. So move on to Busquets, or sorry, rather Casillas last. Keepers, I'm not someone who has much thoughts on keepers. My thoughts on keepers kind of go to the extent that you should just use check, really. So this is the build I went for. We actually have a point left. We'll put that into aerial strength. It's really just to get 90s across the board. I don't have too much thoughts on keepers. I'm not gonna come up here and talk about something I'm not 100% or not 100% like pretty confident in. But I've been just watching eFootball Universe Barry, and he's played a few games now with Casillas and said he's very good so far. Maybe he's played 2 games so far. So based on that, he thinks his height isn't an issue. So if you want kind of a live review of these 3 cards, I think he's got all 3 of them. He's probably live right now when this video goes up. So check out his stream and you can get a live review. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching.